Okay, so welcome everybody. It's really lovely to see you. And I'd like to thank you for taking this time to be here and for your interest in Ayurveda and finding out about this different perspective, which I think you know is a very ancient well-being system. Never know quite what to call it. But really, it's more relevant now than it's ever been, because for me, it's really helped me find a way back to having a really more natural relationship and connection with nature in all the things that we do. So I'm really excited about sharing this perspective with you. And I know some of you came to my first talk, possibly the ones who aren't here, listen to that recording. If you haven't, you might want to, because I start there with a sort of more general overview. And today I want to follow on by really just going into what the Vata dosha is a little bit more deeply. And what I recommend, because really Vata is when we have a Vata imbalance, which many of us may have quite naturally, just because firstly it's winter, which is the Vata season. So for all of us, that's going to make us feel the more Vata energy, which I'll go into a bit shortly. But secondly, really the world that we live in, because we're in this time that we know what's going on in other parts of the world, and we hear all these, traumatic things, whether it's to do with humanity or whether it's to do with nature, and all these quite sort of volatile things going on, that can naturally shake us. And we can think that we're not affected, but on a certain level, it's affecting our nervous system. And what's really important with the nervous system is that we can have a settled nervous system so that we can feel really settled in ourselves, settled in our bodies, so that we can live the life we want to live. Because if we constantly are on alert, worrying if something terrible is going to happen, obviously our whole life experience can feel quite different than if we're feeling more sort of at ease and relaxed in our body, which is really easy to say, because really life, the way the world is, sets us up to have to be in this old primitive way. It is this primitive way of, survival mode. And really, it's something that's affected me in my life. And so I've made it part of my journey to find different ways to work with the nervous system to really feel more settled, in our bodies, in our life, and not, and to be more present and not sort of feel that we can't really be and do what we want to do. So for those who, I don't know if there's anyone here who doesn't know anything about Ayurveda. As I say, please listen to the other talk. But one of the key things about Ayurveda is that this understanding that we are nature. And as we go into that, I'm going to light a candle, as I normally do, so that we can really just be with that lovely presence of fire and spirit, if you like, and just take this moment together and this intention of our well-being and self-care. There we go. So this is for everybody here and the wider group. And I'd just like to invite you all to take a moment to just consider this flame. And I'm not talking about the flame today, because the flame is actually the Pitta dosha, which I know some of you have done some work with me in. So that's our fire energy. But what we're looking at today is the Vata dosha. And in Ayurveda, Vata is the dosha of movement and space. So, well, so really it's the principle of movement, okay? And when we think about it and we put it in terms of us and our bodies, it's everything in your body that moves. Okay, so if we're translating it from, movement in nature, so that can be the wind, it can be the airiness of things. But so in us, it's everything that moves. So it's our breath, it's the nerve impulses traveling from the brain around the body. It's our blood circulating in the veins. It's our food in our digestive tract. And it's even things like our thoughts, so anything moving, and also even the elimination of waste. So obviously movement within us is really crucial, and it's really crucial that it's flowing in a harmonious way, not too little, not too much. And when we get too much movement in our system, that's when, well, in fact, what I'm going to share with you first is when Vata is balanced. So when the movement is how it needs to be within us, or, in our natural way, it's like our creativity and enthusiasm. So, and sort of quick ideas. So real mental agility, real quick learning, how we can be really adaptable and flexible so that we're able to change our mind last minute. So it's things like that. It's what gives us inspiration and lightness and really visionary thinking. So it's this beautiful quality that we all have within us. So for anybody who has or hasn't had their dosha read to know what their blueprint is, we will all have Vata in us in different proportions. So for all of us, it's important that each dosha is in balance. So that's the Vata dosha when it's in balance. But when it's out of balance, essentially that's too much movement in our system. And things that cause that, and it's not just movement. So Ayurveda looks at things in the sense of qualities, okay? And a lot of what I'm saying, it might seem common sense because it is. And when I was learning Ayurveda, part of me thought, well, that's so obvious, I know that. And part of me felt like my head was having to turn upside down because I was being asked to look at things in a completely different way. But one really simple thing in Ayurveda, so we look at things in qualities. So when we look at the qualities of Vata, they are cold, dry, quick and mobile. And if things get too dry, too quick, too mobile, it's such a simple thing, but what do you want to do? You want to do the opposite. So one key thing in Ayurveda is this really, really simple understanding that like increases like. So if there's lots of movement in the body and we give more movement, we're going to spiral with even more movement. But if we bring the opposite, so there's a lot of movement, but we slow things down, we steady things, and we ground things, that's how we come to balance. And the things that causes this extreme of movement within us So when I'm talking about movement, one way to understand that is for anybody who's got a really spinny mind, sorting this out, doing the that's too much movement. That's all it is. Too much energy going whip, 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 whip. And so we need to sort of slow the thoughts down, bring the energy down. And so, obviously things like meditation and actually the oils are wonderful for that. But the things that cause too much movement, and, unfortunately, the way life is at the moment is a lot of that, so it can be hearing the news and having our thoughts whipping up around that. It can be scrolling on a phone, this. And actually someone said to me, I can't remember who said that reading is a really lovely, relaxing thing to do because your eyes are going like this. So it keeps that lovely horizontal. But when you're scrolling, you're doing this. So what's that going to do? More movement, okay? And so it's sort of endless, but hopefully you get the idea that it's that really simple understanding of firstly knowing what's going on. So at the moment we're talking about this movement and this dryness, which is exacerbated in winter. And then knowing that you need the opposite, and then understanding, okay, so what is the opposite? What does that really mean? So then I'm going to go on to that in a minute. And also, just to add to that, so even things like change can really unbalance Vata. So, and these are all natural things for us. So it's quite understandable we'll get a Vata imbalance. But if you think any change, even if it's a positive change, say you get a new job or you move somewhere you want to move, it still can shake you because everything that you knew will become different. And so it can be a positive thing, but it can, but in that in-betweeny time, make you feel a little bit, oh, hang on, this is all a bit new. And of course, things like pressure, the pressure of doing, feeling, that you're not enough, that you're juggling this, that, and the next thing, which I think many people are feeling at the moment. Then all of these things can contribute. And so, what's really important that I just want to bring in here is the understanding that, if we were really living true to nature and true to ourselves, and we didn't have the pressure of having to earn money to having to do this and, and this sort of multitasking, then we would be having much more simple, slower lives, probably just doing very, very simple things. And especially around the winter time, December, January, we would be taking that time to go inward. And like nature, it's that time for sort of deep rest, really deep nourishment to really, give yourself a chance to rejuvenate. Because if you just look outside, that's what's happening in nature. Nature's sort of going back to the beginning again before it blossoms again in the spring. And so this is it's a lovely time to plant seeds. And so that's why it can be really lovely to allow yourself, if at all possible, more time and space just to, muse a little bit and not try to sort of make anything up, but just, okay, this is how my life is now. What would I really love for next year? And that's sort of seed planting. So nothing that you have to do, but even, do we allow time for that? And, just how important it can be to what we call this inner life. If we can sort how we feel out, or not sort, if we can take care of how we're feeling within ourselves, then we can take action to change things on the outside and, not stay stuck. But obviously we need to allow time for these things. So just going to take a moment there. Any questions? Probably don't need to go into well, no, I will mention what a Vata balance can look like. So as I've touched on, it can be anything connected to a racing mind, worry spirals, anxiety, things like that. It can even be insomnia, restless nights, because if you can imagine, if you've got all that movement within you, it's much harder to just really allow the body to deeply settle. And it can be that really sort of uncomfortable feeling of, not fully feeling present, feeling a bit scattered, a bit ungrounding, and quite easily becoming overwhelmed. And things like difficulty completing tasks, sensitivity to noise, crowd, things like that. Anything like that, this is sort of it can become quite a hyper sensitivity. And then if we're looking at it physically, it can also affect our digestion. So we can have gas, bloating, constipation, things like that. And especially connected to the winter time, we can get very dry skin, hair, eyes, and joint. So this is exacerbated by winter, because obviously that's what's going on in winter as well. And the whole feeling cold, muscle tension, twitching, and that tired but wired feel. So if you recognize any of these, they are things that through an Ayurvedic lens that can over time, so it's not a quick fix. Ayurveda is never a quick fix, but over time we can, bring that balance in if we know what things can really support it. Okay, so shortly I'm going to give you 3 pillars of things that can really support a return to balance. Before we do that, I'm just going to invite us to pause together and just really see if together we can just come into that feeling of really allowing ourselves to pause, to stop, to be fully here now, and just do a little bit of what I call belly breathing. Because also, if we can actively sort of slow the breath down, something happens that we can land in our body a little bit better. So I'm just going to invite you maybe just to if you just get really comfortable in your chair. And ideally, if you can be resting against something. And it's up to you. If you feel like just gently closing your eyes as we go along, you can. I mean, I'm just going to do a few moments because of time. But just pop your hand on your tummy. If you want, pop your hand on a heart. But just really feel yourself. Really feel, oh, this is me. I can actually feel me, and how lovely me is here. And just see if you can really allow yourself just be really quiet and just really present. I'm going to not do too much, but if you could just gently really just tune into your breath, just feel your body and feel your breathing, and just notice how you are, and let however you are be okay. And then within that, however you are. Just see if you can let go, especially if you notice tension in your shoulders or anywhere in your body. So it's making me have lovely big deep breaths. Just notice what your body's doing. It's like, oh gosh, I was holding on, I can let go. Just see if you can let go. And if you'd like to, just really focus on your breath being in your tummy, this lovely sort of belly breathing. And it can just be very, very gentle. So don't force anything. It can just be 4 counts in, 4 counts out. Just very sort of even belly breathing. Stay yourself. I'm just letting somebody else in. Welcome, Francis. We're just doing a little sort of breathing. So if you just, all we're doing, hand on tummy, hand on heart, and we're just really feeling our body and feeling our breath. Just really helping ourselves land fully here. And then just see how you are, but you might like to just see if you can extend your exhale, so your out breath, just a little bit longer than your in breath. But again, don't force anything, but just see that might even naturally be happening. Just stay with yourselves and just notice how you are. Just notice if anything feels different within you. And then take your time, but then when you're ready to sort of come out of that, then do. Just we'll take a moment, see how everyone is. So I'll cut this bit out, but how is everybody? Did anybody notice anything there? And it doesn't matter if you didn't, because it was only a few moments. But did anyone? Does anyone have anything they'd like to share? But as I say, you don't have to. No. Well, thank you for taking part in that.
It was good to. I felt I could slow down a little. It was good.
Yeah. So what's lovely is that when we realize that we're speeding up, even just to take a few moments like that sort of conscious awareness can help us sort of slow down a bit, or, between tasks or anything like that. So I'm going to go on then, because I just wanted to share the ways that Ayurveda recommends, what it offers in a way to balance the Vata dosha. And there are sort of key pillars. So the first one is food. And particularly, so if somebody has got a Vata imbalance, and if it's quite an extreme Vata imbalance, it becomes quite a depletion. Okay, so if you can imagine someone that seems maybe a little bit more frail, that, you know, this is sort of extreme. And what's interesting also, as in Ayurveda, there are different doshas to different times of life. And the Vata dosha is connected to our older years. So when we're sort of more like, you know, 60, 70, 80. And if you can just consider that in that time of our life, our bones can get less strong. You know, our skin can look more sort of creped. And so what I'm sharing with you now also, in Ayurveda, it's a lot about prevention. And the more we can bring these things in, there's less chance of, you know, that depletion happening as we age. I mean, it's going to happen, but by supporting with these sort of things, it may happen more slowly. So food in Ayurveda is a real key. And as I think quite a few of you here know, but for anybody watching the recording who may not know, when we are looking at really balancing Vata, we're looking at really bringing moisture into the body and warmth. So it's this real moisture, warmth, and real nourishment. And this is because of this too much Vata can really sort of dry us and, as I say, make us feel quite depleted. And when I say moisture, I'm not talking about drinking lots of water. In fact, that could sometimes have an opposite effect. You know, when, you know, a few years ago, everyone was like, oh, you've got to have how many glasses of water? No, you need as much water as you feel you need. And so it's really coming back to this thing also of listening to yourself. So not doing, oh, such body says that this is the superfood, or such body said I should drink this amount of water. No, it's about tuning into yourself and thinking, oh, what am I feeling? What do I need? But if we're working with Vata, and for any of us still through this winter time, because, you know, winter in Ayurveda is a long season, really, Vata kicks in end of September, October, all the way to February. So it's quite a long stint before we're getting into spring and the Kapha season. So food-wise, soups, stews, you know, so the way we cook as well as what we cook affects the quality of our nourishment. So really avoid too much dry food, because again, that's going to dry you out. So even things like, you know, crisps, crackers, any dry thing like that is going to exacerbate things. But things like, you know, hearty stews, warming grains, so, you know, rices and things like that, oats, and cooked, really quite cooked. So it's almost like, you know, it's comfort food, almost like baby food in a way, but it becomes medicinal because it's really giving the body what the body needs. And then along with this, Vata can get quite cold. So if we're really wanting to warm Vata, you know, you would never have anything cold. You'd have warm food, you know, stewed fruits, dates, figs, all of these sort of things, really supportive. And then warming spices. So things like ginger, cinnamon, cardamom, cumin. And all of these also help digestion. Because when Vata's in balance, our digestion can get quite irregular. So it could be one time that you're feeling a bit constipated, another time you're feeling the opposite. So it can, you know, it's this movement thing, this change in our digestion. And then also another real key for Vata balance is healthy fats. So ghee, sesame oil, olive oil, coconut oil, all of these. And again, it's to do with this internal lubrication. So helping things flow more smoothly, helping things slow down through the system, that sort of thing. And then equally, we need to, if we're working with Vata, really cut down on raw foods, cold foods, dry foods, as I said, excessive caffeine. So all of these things are going to exacerbate it. And that's why, you need to be really careful of, the raw diets and all these things. Raw diet is fine in the summer, but in the winter time, it can completely unbalance us because it's not what our systems need to really feel deeply nourished in that way of what Ayurveda calls the 7 layers of the body. So I'm not going to go into that, but there are 7 beautiful layers of our body, including the bones, the muscle, and things like that. So that's for a whole other time, but it's about this deep nourishing and restoration. Welcome, this restoration and really healing, actually, restoring what has become, lesser than itself. So one thing I would like to add here, in case people don't know, is that my approach, I actually trained with a very amazing woman, Divya Alta, in New York. She has the Ayurvedic School of Culinary School of Nutrition. I can't remember the exact title of it. And she actually is vegetarian and very, I wouldn't say hardcore, but she's, it's very traditional Ayurvedic cooking. And I trained with her. And through that time, I think she was really hoping I'd become vegetarian, but I didn't. But she also honored the fact, which I do. And the thing with Ayurveda, which in actual fact somewhat overrides being vegetarian, because I think many people think, oh, well, it's, vegetarian and I can only eat this and I can only eat that. No. The way I teach the principles. Okay. So the principles can be put to any diet. So if you eat meat, if you eat fish, if you are vegan, which is actually a little bit harder in Ayurveda because dairy is a real important element in the diet, and of course vegetarian. And one thing Ayurveda holds true is that in actual fact, what you were brought up on and nourished with as a child, providing it's good for you food, because your body knows that, that is probably going to be the most nourishing for you if you're going through a healing journey and really wanting to bring your digestion fully back to, optimum health. And so, I get very cautious if people are being advised, to become vegetarian or to do that. And it's absolutely perfect if you feel that that's what your body needs. And, many of us will go through changes. I eat less meat than I did, but my body knows meat. I'm a pitta dosha, so my body works very fast. So it needs a lot of food to keep me going. So in actual fact, my constitution wouldn't probably work very well as a vegetarian. So I'm honoring that. So just to say, so what is important is that isn't one size fits all. The only thing that matters for you is what makes your body thrive and makes you thrive. And it's only by beginning to really understand the principles and then make the micro changes to what you feel you need and to keep making the micro changes. That's how the healing happens, because then all of a sudden you're finding the diet that really works for you. And obviously throughout that, we're going to have times in your life, you know, I'll go through a time I think, oh gosh, I'm feeling this, what do I need? But what's so lovely is being able to tune in and think, oh yeah, I think that might help me now. And in actual fact, what helps me for one thing one time won't be the same another time. So it can actually be a really fascinating thing, you know, to find out what these things do. You know, in my training, I was amazed of, you know, looking at things like this pomegranate and understanding what that pomegranate was doing to me when I ate it. And for pitta dosha, pomegranate is amazing. So, you know, there's many layers to it. So food is one thing. Another thing I'm just going to touch on now is touch. And so when and actually what I haven't really pulled in is this whole idea of the nervous system, because the Vata dosha governs the nervous system. And so when we're feeling this depletion, it can be because our nervous system is on that fight and flight because there's too much movement and it's like, oh, is something bad going to happen? Or even on that freeze. And so the more that we can really support the body to feel safe and settled, then the more Vata is going to balance as well. One key thing in Ayurveda is what we call Abhyanga, which is self-massage. And this works for many reasons. And it is quite arguably one of the most important Vata balancing principles. And all it really is oil massage. Now, on Thursday, I'm going to be launching the new platform, and in there will be 3 programs available. The first one is a cookery one. I'll just bring them in now so that you know, and that's on Saturday, the 7th of February, and we'll be cooking a Vata balancing nervous system settling menu. So that's Saturday afternoon, the 7th. Then the following Friday, the 13th, 7:30 till 9, I'm going to be offering my first aroma point experience. And I will talk about oils a little bit later. And that is with the most magnificent oil, vetiver, which when you know how to work with the aroma point method, which I will be sharing, it's like someone getting hold of you and giving you a big hug and bringing you down to earth. And I think everybody needs vetiver right now. So again, that's a really lovely oil for really settling the nervous system, really helping us ground. And that's on the 13th. And then the following week, I'm doing a whole love and self-care retreat at home in the sanctuary of your own home. And that is Friday night, Saturday, there's sort of a few hours. So there's a lot of time in between, and Saturday night and Sunday. And that will be a combination of everything. So all the lovely Ayurvedic, so there will be food and nutrition cook-alongs. You will get 3 essential oils in that one, and I'll be working with aroma points and with the vetiver as well. If you're in the UK, you get the oils if you sign up. And also I'll be doing, why I got onto that is that I will be demonstrating a Abhyanga self-massage with oil. So that will be when we meet on the Friday night. So if anybody wants to do that with me, you would be given all your prep before so that you can really see it. It's so simple. So in a way, it's like a girly retreat, the love and self-care for that weekend, so we can really put ourselves first. But as I was saying, so really, it's very supportive for the nervous system. And also, interestingly enough, it's about boundaries. It's like by feeling your own physical boundary, you can feel more in yourself. So it's just to do with allowing this real settling within ourselves. And, you know, we don't always have time to do things like that. So even just to do an oil massage on your feet is quite lovely. And then I'm going to go on because I want to leave some time for questions. So other things that really, really help the Vata dosha is rest, and it's non-negotiable. You know, to actually within your day allow some time of doing nothing and actually laying down and resting and not looking at a phone and not, you know, not doing anything, just having time to completely let your mind clear, maybe let yourself daydream, you know, but just allowing that time for things to come, or for you to come back to yourself without having external input. You know, so just really allowing that space. And, you know, again, really mirroring what's happening in nature, that things are hibernating, you know, and allowing themselves to rejuvenate, so that, you know, come spring, we've got this lovely fresh energy. We've been planting seeds, and this lovely fresh energy can come. So really like a wind down ritual in the evening is really lovely, whatever that might be for you. And obviously the old gem of turning the screens off way before you go to bed. And obviously the obvious ones, nature, walking in nature. Movement wise, it's not a good idea to do vigorous movement, you can imagine, if you've got too much movement going on. So really like gentle flow yoga, restorative yoga. It could be swimming, you know, just gentle walks in nature, tai chi. So anything that really sort of slows us down is really, really supportive. And as I said, things like the belly breathing, meditation, all of these things, anything that can really just help you ground. And just finally, before I leave some time for questions, the other thing that not only Ayurveda, because many different traditions value essential oils, I found essential oils amazingly supportive for the nervous system. And for myself, I've actually found they've helped me reset my nervous system, which has been quite incredible. And vetiver is an amazing starting point because it just helps you land back in your body a bit more. And so that's why, well, especially for this time of year, you wouldn't perhaps need vetiver so much other times, but for this time of year, it really is a beautiful oil. And then also oils like in the retreat, I'm going to be offering bergamot, which is the oil of self-acceptance. So often when there's a lot of Vata energy, we're like, oh, I'm not good enough, oh, this, that, and the next thing. So it's a lovely one for that. And what's quite amazing about bergamot is that it's very uplifting, but calming as well. So it sort of brightens you without spiraling you up. So it's really lovely for that. And then lavender, the old gem of lavender, very calming, and geranium. And geranium is a very special oil. Well, they're all special. But especially for women, it's really, really supportive hormonally. It is a wonderful oil if, like many women do, you're very good at overgiving. And it really brings a remembering back to us of how we can receive as well as give. And again, for Vata, that can be a thing that we get into, you know, doing, I've got to do that for that person, that for that person, this constant doing. So it really helps us, you know, bring back love and self-care to ourselves. So I think that's mainly what I'd like to share with you today. It's quite a lot of information. So I hope you're just letting it wash over you. But for anybody who would like to experience any, ways to settle the Vata dosha and really reset the nervous system, as I say, I'm going to be doing a live cookery workshop, a live vetiver experience, and then a love and self-care weekend that has the whole combination of things in. So and if anybody has any questions around that, let me know. But registration for them will be open on Thursday, when I'll be inviting you into the new platform. So very excited about that. But I just want to thank you so much for your kind attention. I hope that you've gained something from there, and to see this, what might feel a different perspective, or it might feel very, very obvious. And I think, I don't know about you, I mean, I've been doing this for years now, but I need reminding, because it's so easy to just be on that, especially for me at the moment doing my business. And it's like every second of the day, I think, oh, I've got to be doing that. It's never going to get that. So I'm way on that Vata, the Vata wheel. So, anything that we can do to just really support that balance in whatever is going on in our life, I think is really helpful. Thank you. So I'm going to say goodbye to anybody that's watching the recording, and thank you for watching the recording. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, Corinna@corinnakitchen.com. And I'm going to turn off now. And if anybody has any questions, then I'll really happily do my best to answer them. Let me